The scent of freshly brewed coffee, my morning ritual, felt bitter and poisonous today. I stood by the office coffee machine, adding a splash of oat milk to my portion, when Arthur, the new CEO and son of the company's founder, walked into the break room. His mere presence immediately made the air tighten around me, like a noose. He didn't greet me. He didn't smile. He looked at me as if I were not just old clutter, but something repulsive, an unsightly stain that marred his perfectly new, sterile world. Amelia, my office. Now, it wasn't a request. His tone carried an absolute, icy authority that sent not just shivers down my spine, but a true frost that permeated my very bones. My chest instantly went cold, as if my heart was squeezed by a hand of ice, anticipating an inevitable storm. A strange, deep, ominous premonition, piercing to the core, seized me. For 15 years, I had given this company not just my time, but a piece of my very soul. Starting from the lowest position, I clawed my way up, step by painstaking step, ascending the career ladder. I poured every nerve, every thought into each project, experiencing exhilarating highs and hellish lows alongside the company, considering it my brainchild and my colleagues, the only family I had. But with the arrival of the new management, in the person of the arrogant founder's son, my entire world shattered, crumbling in an instant. His disdainful, cruel attitude and sudden dismissal marked the beginning of my desperate fight for justice, a fight in which I decided not only to restore my trampled good name, but also to show this audacious upstart that I am not just a number on a spreadsheet, but a force capable of utterly destroying him. Arthur underestimated me, and for that, he will pay for absolutely everything he possesses. My name is Amelia, and at 42, I prided myself on every ache, every calloused hand that bore witness to what I had achieved in my life. 15 years ago, right after graduating from university, I took on a junior assistant position at a small but promising software development company. The company's founder was a respected and wise man, Mr. Edward, who managed to create not just a successful business, but a true team of like-minded individuals where everyone felt valued. He became like a second father to me, the rock I so desperately needed. I remember my first years at the company with gratitude. Mr. Edward was not only an excellent leader, but also a true mentor. He saw my potential, supported my initiatives, and gave me opportunities to grow professionally. I learned quickly, was diligent, and dedicated to my work. Thanks to my perseverance and hard work, I gradually advanced up the career ladder, taking on increasingly responsible positions. Over time, I became a leading project manager, and my opinion was valued by management and colleagues. The company grew and developed, and with it, my involvement in its success deepened. I remember sleepless nights when coffee was my only friend before important releases, the feeling of exhaustion that transformed into euphoria after successfully completed projects, the unwavering support of colleagues during difficult times. We were a true team, united by a common goal and mutual respect. I was proud to be part of this company, and I truly believed I had found my true calling here. Mr. Edward always distinguished himself with wisdom and foresight. He gradually stepped back from operational management, delegating some of his authority to his deputies, but remained the company's chief ideologist and inspirer. Everyone knew that his son, Arthur, would eventually lead the company, but until then, he had been engaged in his own projects abroad and showed little interest in the family business. He was something of a myth, distant, yet potentially significant. However, Mr. Edwards' health had recently deteriorated. He appeared less frequently at the office, and rumors of a possible change in leadership became more persistent. Every call, every new piece of news about his condition filled my heart with dread. Finally, it became known that Mr. Edward had decided to officially hand over the CEO position to his son, Arthur. This news caused a mixed reaction within the team. On one hand, Everyone understood that this was an inevitable step and hoped that the new leader would continue the traditions established by his father. On the other hand, few people knew Arthur personally. He had spent many years abroad, and his return was unexpected for many. Rumors circulated about his ambition bordering on ruthlessness, his harshness, and a somewhat condescending attitude towards people, which was already off-putting. My personal feelings were not just anxious, but permeated with deep apprehension. For 15 years of work, I had become not just an employee, but one of the key members of the team. I knew all the processes inside out, enjoyed the respect of colleagues, and the trust of management. I worried how the arrival of this outsider at the helm of the company could destroy everything that had been built for decades, and, most terrifyingly, how it would affect my life. However, I tried to remain optimistic and believed that professionalism and dedication would continue to be valued. I even mentally prepared to offer my help to the new leader, to share my experience and knowledge to ensure a smooth transition of power and preserve the company's success. I sincerely hoped that Arthur would prove worthy of continuing his father's work and lead our company to new heights. Unfortunately, my hopes, my sincere expectations, turned out to be not just futile, but cruelly crushed. The first weeks after Arthur's official assumption of the CEO position passed in an atmosphere of deep, oppressive anticipation. He appeared at the office irregularly, held closed meetings with key managers, and absolute uncertainty, hanging over everyone like the sword of Damocles, prevailed in the team. Many tried to establish contact with him, to share their ideas and vision for the company's development, but he remained aloof, demonstrating icy coldness and complete indifference, as if we were mere empty space. I also tried to find an opportunity to talk to him, to tell him about my work, about successfully implemented projects, about my experience and vision for the further development of our department. I believed that my 15 years of experience and impeccable reputation at the company gave me that right. However, my attempts to schedule a meeting remained unanswered. His secretary politely refused each time, citing the new CEO's tight schedule. Each refusal was a small blow that chipped away at my confidence. And then, that morning, as I calmly drank my coffee, preparing for another workday, Arthur entered the break room. His cold, condescending gaze, directed at me, instantly filled the air with an unpleasant, deadly tension. His unceremonious, "Amelia, my office," now sounded not just like a verdict, but like a death knell. I placed my cup on the table, trying to control the unrestrained, panicked anxiety rising within me. What could have happened? Had he finally decided to talk to me? But his tone promised nothing but trouble. I entered his office. The large, once cozy office of Mr. Edward now looked alien and mercilessly cold. New furniture with sharp angles, minimal personal belongings, gray walls without a single painting. Everything spoke of a new, empty, soulless management style. Arthur sat at the massive desk, his gaze fixed on some document. He didn't lift his head when I entered. His indifference was more insulting than direct rudeness. "Sit," he tossed out, without looking up from his papers. I silently sat on the chair across from the desk, waiting. Finally, he put down the document and looked me in the eyes for the first time. His gaze was evaluating, contemptuous, and filled with hidden cruelty. "Amelia, I have reviewed the organizational chart and employee list," he began in a cold, official tone. "And I have decided to optimize the company structure." My heart clenched in pain, anticipating the worst. I already guessed where he was going with this. "In this regard, your position is being eliminated." His words sounded like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky, splitting my world in two. Eliminated? My position? My life? After 15 years of devoted work, an impeccable reputation, and significant achievements, this was a slap in the face. "But, Arthur," I tried to object, but he sharply interrupted me. "The decision has been made and is not subject to discussion. The company needs new blood, new ideas, younger and more ambitious employees who can take it to the next level." His words sounded like a slap that burned my cheek. Your time is over. You will receive severance pay according to labor law. You can hand in your pass to the secretary and leave the building by the end of the workday. I sat stunned, crushed, disbelieving every single word he uttered. Is this really the end? Can he just so easily erase 15 years of my life, my labor, my blood and sweat, my absolute dedication to this company? But my projects, my team. I barely whispered, feeling my voice tremble with pain. Your projects will be handed over to other employees. Your team, they will adapt. The company cannot stand still for sentimentality. His tone was icy and merciless, as if he were talking about a robot, not a living human being. He didn't even look at me. He picked up his papers again, signaling that the conversation was over. My breath caught from furious indignation and a deep, corrosive resentment. Didn't he understand that his decision was destroying not just my career, but my entire life's foundation, all my dreams? Did he truly believe that I was just an old, worn-out thing to be thrown into the trash, like refuse? I stood up from the chair, feeling not just hellish pain in my chest, but a cold, steel-hard determination rising. He will regret this, bitterly regret his decision. He will learn what I am truly worth. On that day, not only a feeling of deep resentment was born in my heart, but also a crystal clear, unstoppable realization that I would not give up. I will rise from the ashes, I will prove my worth, and he will pay for his insolence. My quiet revenge had already begun to gather momentum, like a deadly spiral, in my mind. After my dismissal, the world around me seemed to dim, losing all its colors. The rhythm of life, established over years, was mercilessly torn to shreds. The first few days I spent at home, wrapped in a blanket against the cold of my own despair, trying to comprehend what had happened. Panic-stricken emptiness, bitter resentment, unbearable disappointment, a feeling of absolute injustice, these emotions overwhelmed me, giving me no peace day or night. I recalled all those years, every step, every sacrifice, given to the company, all my efforts and achievements, and I could not reconcile myself to the fact that it had all been so easily undone by one audacious, insidious decision of an arrogant upstart. However, gradually, the oppressive bitterness of resentment began to transform into a burning, unbreakable determination. I realized that I had no right to give up, to let him win. 15 years of experience, profound industry knowledge, countless valuable contacts. This was my capital, which no one could take from me. I decided to use my potential as a weapon to prove my worth and show Arthur what a fatal mistake he had made. I began actively looking for a new job. I sent out resumes, went to interviews, met with old colleagues and partners. And, to my pleasant surprise, I felt support from many people who knew me as a highly skilled professional. Their words of encouragement were a breath of fresh air in the desert of my despair. Many expressed their outrage at my dismissal and offered their help. It was then that I began to think not only about finding a new job, but also about starting my own business. This idea seemed crazy, risky, but at the same time incredibly appealing. I had a clear vision of what was missing in the market, I knew customer needs, and I had a team of talented and dedicated people who were willing to follow me. Before making a final decision, I conducted a thorough market analysis, studied the activities of competitors, and assessed my opportunities and risks. I realized that I had every chance of success. My experience, my reputation, and the support of former colleagues could become a solid foundation for creating a successful company that would provide worthy competition to my former employer. The decision was made. I founded my own company, specializing in software development in the same industry as Arthur's company. I assembled a team of the best specialists, most of whom were my former colleagues, who had also felt the chill of the new management. We were filled with enthusiasm and determination to prove to the whole world that we were a true force to be reckoned with. My new company developed rapidly. Thanks to our hard work, high-quality products, and focus on customer needs, we quickly gained market trust. Our projects were successful, clients were satisfied, and our reputation grew daily. Naturally, the successes of my company could not go unnoticed by Arthur. At first, he probably considered us unserious competitors, a temporary phenomenon that would quickly disappear. But with each new successfully completed project, with each client who switched from his company to ours, his self-confidence began to fray at the seams, like old fabric. I learned about his reaction through mutual acquaintances and former colleagues. Initially, he showed contempt, trying to diminish our achievements and spreading rumors about our incompetence. But then his tone changed. Notes of irritation, escalating into rage, and genuine concern began to sound in his voice. The first serious blow to his ego was when our company won a tender for a large government contract, which his firm had heavily relied on. It was a public defeat that not only caused significant financial damage to his company, but also significantly undermined his reputation in the industry. I remember the stories from former colleagues about his uncontrollable rage and despair, which he didn't even try to hide, after the tender results were announced. He couldn't believe that the company he considered his own had lost to some newly formed firm, led by his useless former employee. He lashed out at people like a wounded beast. This victory became for me not only an important step in the development of my business, but also the first tangible act of my quiet revenge. I didn't shout about my victory, I didn't gloat over his defeat. I simply continued to work diligently, proving my worth and his mistake every day through my work, my success. After the first tangible defeat, Arthur began to treat our company with maniacal seriousness. He tried to put every obstacle imaginable in our way, using his connections and influence in the market. He pressured our suppliers, poached our employees, spread the dirtiest rumors about our company. But his pathetic actions only strengthened our resolve and united our team. We learned to withstand his ploys, find new opportunities, and become even stronger, savoring every one of his failed moves. Meanwhile, while Arthur futilely wasted his energy trying to destroy us, his own company began to experience increasingly serious, deadly problems. His arrogant and authoritarian leadership led to a mass exodus of qualified personnel, a catastrophic decline in product and service quality, and a complete loss of customer trust. Many who had once worked for his father and genuinely loved the company could not tolerate his contemptuous attitude, his rudeness, and unprofessionalism. I meticulously followed his every step, every mistake. My quiet revenge was not an impulsive reaction, but a cold-blooded, multi-layered strategy. I waited for the opportune moment to deliver a decisive, crushing blow. And that moment arrived. I learned that Arthur's company was in an absolutely dire, hopeless financial situation. Several large projects had collapsed, no new contracts were being signed, and debts to creditors were growing daily, turning into a snowball. His attempts to attract investments ended in complete failure. The company stood on the edge of an abyss, on the brink of bankruptcy. I realized this was my fateful chance. I gathered my team, and we developed a plan for the complete takeover of Arthur's company. We had the necessary resources, experience, and support from financial partners. We made him a favorable, yet at the same time devastating, humiliating offer that he could not refuse without publicly declaring himself bankrupt. Arthur found himself trapped in a snare of his own making. His arrogance, overconfidence, and contemptuous attitude towards people ultimately led to his complete, shameful downfall. Now he had to turn for help to the very person he had once so mercilessly thrown out onto the street, considering her trash. The realization of this fact filled me not with gloating, but with a sense of deep, absolute justice. My quiet revenge was nearing its end, and its finale promised to be truly astonishing, epic. Negotiations for the takeover of Arthur's company lasted several tense, exhausting weeks. He put up a desperate fight, trying to bargain for better terms, but his position was absolutely hopeless. Creditors were pressuring him, time was running out, and he understood that bankruptcy was the inevitable, shameful end. At one of the last meetings, held in his own office, which now looked even more gloomy and neglected, like a tomb, than before, Arthur sat across from me, pale, exhausted, with lifeless eyes. His self-confidence had vanished, and his eyes revealed deep despair and complete bewilderment. "Amelia," he said in a hoarse voice, "you realize this is unfair. You're just using my difficult situation to get revenge." I calmly looked at him. "Unfair?" I countered, and my voice held neither anger nor triumph, only a cold, undeniable statement of fact. Was it fair to dismiss me with one arrogant decision, erasing 15 years of my dedicated work, my blood, my tears? Was it fair to treat with contempt the people who built this company's success even before you arrived? You, and only you, by your thoughtless actions, led your company to this. He lowered his eyes, crushed, unable to find a single word in response. Eventually, the deal was signed. My company officially absorbed his firm. I became not only his competitor, but also his new superior. The irony of the situation was bitter, devastating, yet incredibly telling. At the general meeting of the merged company's employees, held the next day, I stood on the stage, before Arthur's former colleagues and members of my own team. Arthur sat in the front row, his face contorted with rage, humiliation, and powerlessness. "Today," I said, my words echoing in the absolute silence of the hall, "a new era in our company's history begins. We have combined our efforts to become stronger and more successful. I know that many of you experienced difficult times under the previous management. I want to assure you that my goal is to restore the values that once formed the foundation of this company: respect for every employee, support for initiative, a striving for professional growth, and shared responsibility for success." I deliberately did not mention Arthur's name. My revenge was not in public humiliation, but in demonstrating my strength and his helplessness. The very fact that he sat in the hall as a regular employee of the company he once so confidently considered his own was more eloquent than any words, even the worst. After the meeting, Arthur approached me. His face was distorted with pure, furious hatred. "You'll regret this," he hissed through clenched teeth. I calmly looked at him. "No, Arthur. The only person who will truly regret their fatal decisions is you." His dismissal was only a matter of time. I could not keep a person in my team who was incapable of respect and cooperation, who had proven his incompetence and destructive power through his actions. His former empire, built on arrogance and contempt for others, crumbled to dust, like a house of cards. And I, that very useless employee whom he had once so easily cast aside, now stood at the head of a united, powerful, and immensely promising company. My quiet revenge was complete. Justice, though not immediately, had ultimately triumphed. After Arthur left the company, the atmosphere in the team changed drastically, as if the air had been purified. Employees once again felt respect and support from management. My goal was not to seek revenge for revenge's sake, but to restore the broken justice and create a company where everyone felt valued and could realize their potential. The company thrived. Thanks to the coordinated work of the team, the implementation of new technologies, and a focus on customer needs, we achieved extraordinary success in the market. My reputation as a wise and fair leader grew stronger every day. I often recall that morning by the coffee machine, that cold stare, and the unceremonious dismissal. Then I felt only unbearable pain, a soul-wrenching disappointment. But it was precisely this painful, yet vitally important experience that became the impetus for my growth, for the realization of my own strength, and for understanding that true success is built not on arrogance and contempt, but on respect for people and dedication to one's craft. Arthur? I heard that his subsequent career did not go well. His reputation was ruined, and few wanted anything to do with him, as if he were a leper. He paid a high price for his audacity and overconfidence. This story taught me an important lesson: never underestimate people, and remember that Even in the deepest darkness, in the most difficult situations, you must not give up. Resentment can be a powerful motivator, and perseverance and belief in one's own abilities will surely lead to victory. Sometimes the most effective revenge is your own triumphant success.